It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Event Icons, where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. So, you might be wondering, how do you get to ask questions? All you have to do is use the question panel on the right of GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter to submit your questions with the hashtag EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share hashtag EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is hashtag Event Icons with your hosts, Will Curran of Endless Events, Laura Lopez of Social Tables, and Brandt Krueger of Event Technology Consulting.
That was epic.
Wow. Is Brandt frozen?
I think Brandt is frozen. He looks like he's in a state of deep
We have
thought.
amazing timing because Brandt's been having some connectivity issues, and I was like, dang, he's really holding that pose right now, and it's because he's frozen right now. So Brandt was originally going to introduce this episode, so while he gets reconnected, I'll explain what's going to go on, even though I don't even know what's going to happen today. So today's yeah, Laura, you can explain this, but this was all your guys' idea, and so I'm going to let you guys own it.
All right, so today, this is actually what we're calling a potpourri episode. So we have a couple of questions that we'll sort of do round robin on. And surprisingly, we have each come to the table with a couple of different thoughts and ideas from around the events industry. So with that said, I want to first thank everybody for tuning in live. For anybody that has a question or something to contribute, please feel free to use the questions panel off to the right. Use the chat panel. We want to hear from you. Yeah, so we have a list of a couple questions, and we're going to roll through them, and we're each going to contribute something different. So
the first mishmash, but remix, a little different. We thought we'd test out this style format to see if you guys like it. And yeah, I'm excited because this is a little different flavor than we're used to. So for the first thing that we wanted to talk about is keep it really current and talk about some current events in the world, and specifically about the events world and what's going on, and just kind of have a little bit of a discussion around it and all that jazz. So Laura, do you want to kind of kick it off with what you kind of had in mind with what your story is that you picked for today's episode?
Yeah, so let's see. A couple of things happening in the events world. Two really big events that I think are really interesting. So the first is that recently the Met Gala just happened. It's the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. It's their big gala that they have every year. And you hear, the reason why it becomes so newsworthy is just for the crazy fashions that people walk through the door in. And it's very high fashion. But if you think about the history, and I actually recently read an article about it, it's actually one of the biggest fundraisers for the gallery. So, kind of thinking back to some of the work of, maybe the nonprofit event planners that tune in, or maybe even the folks who work for associations, kind of like what ways or what things can they pull from the Met Gala's like insane, crazy event can they pull into their own fundraising activities. And so, there's a lot of influencer marketing. There's a lot of fashion, there's music, there's food, there's art. So really awesome. Thought it was a very successful one this year. No mishaps from what I heard. There's always something that kind of goes down, but
the mishaps only come when I tell my story.
Oh, we'll talk about influencer marketing and mishaps in a second. Yeah, it was just a really interesting, cool thing to follow on social media, and yeah, it was just like a really huge event. So that's number one, and then number two is so I'm actually based in Washington, D.C., for those of you that don't know. And actually, we are right down the street from the White House. We're at 13th and G, and then one street over is Pennsylvania Avenue. So there was something really interesting that happened recently, I think it was last week, was the Not White House Correspondents' Dinner, which was hosted by Samantha Bee. She has a really hilarious TV show, and I guess no matter where you stand on the fence of politics, I thought it was just a really interesting event to host. And I would say at its core was really, it was satire, but it was actually more of a celebratory event to celebrate a lot of the journalists who do some really, really tough work, embedded journalists who are out there, reporting from the field. Really, really interesting event there. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool to have
what's like the content that they're usually covering? Like, is it similar where it's like the roasting style, or is it like yeah,
there's a little bit of a roast. There's, she even had kind of like an opening monologue like she does for her TV show. She featured a lot of journalists who were there, who she invited. So that was actually a really, really cool setup. Yeah, but I think the roast format was pretty cool. It's not terribly innovative, but it was interesting that she sort of brought, because, her whole show was, it's really comedy at its core, but it was, really celebrating something that, is happening in the world today. So thought it was kind of cool to link the two together.
Interesting. I'm curious to know, living in D.C., this is probably more a general question, how much does politics really affect your local events industry? I'm assuming massively, right?
Yeah, it really does. So I am a part of our local ILEA chapter here in D.C. Shout out to ILEA. But we hosted, I would say, one of the most successful events that we've had as a chapter was that we did it was around the time of the election, but it was an inauguration panel. So anybody who had worked on a previous inauguration ball or event,
oh, wow.
A high-profile event, we brought about four people in to just do kind of like a Q&A panel discussion. And it was everybody from Obama to the Bushes or both of the Bushes, and beyond that. So it was really, really cool to hear, again, just across the administrations, again, not, even talking about Republican versus Democrat, but just learning about all the things that you had to take into consideration. There was one person on the panel that was talking about how, in certain events where there's high security, so we're right near Constitution Avenue, which is sort of like one of the main streets in DC where you see a lot of the monuments. They had actually shut down all of the bridges and tunnels into DC. And so this one guy's chef team actually ended up getting caught up in that. So the crazy things you have to consider when it comes to security at your event, risk management, and just, kind of planning around those kinds of things. But I think those are universal principles that a lot of planners need to take into consideration anyways, but typically security is one of the most high list of ranks high on the list of concerns for an event in DC.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Will, what did you pick up as a piece of news from the events world this week?
Well, I call dibs on probably the thing that everyone's talking about right now, which is everyone's favorite thing, because everyone loves disaster, right? And being able to see the bad things in the world and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. That would never happen to me. And everyone's favorite disaster in the events industry to talk about right now is Fyre Festival with a Y. If you haven't heard about what's going on with it, I don't know if you don't have social media or you haven't heard about it, but basically, I'll give the gist of it. I don't really want to actually talk too much about this festival because, as people have kind of brought up, it is definitely, and welcome back, Brandt, definitely it was not planned by professionals. So essentially, it was this music festival, super high-end, insane high-end, where tickets started at $1,500 and went to I think $100,000 for tickets or something like that. Event that was designed that people were flying into the Bahamas. It was supposed to be this amazing, luxurious, like insanely upscale event, and people showed up and they said it looked like a disaster relief zone. Like the classic white tents with no walls. The fancy cheeses and crackers they were supposed to be eating were like Ritz crackers and cheeses, right? So overall, just pretty crappy ran event. A bunch of artists backed out at the last minute. Blink-182, Disclosure, all these people like that ended up not coming to the event. And because of the basis of it, the whole event was designed around influencers. And if you haven't heard of influencer marketing, it's probably one of the hottest topics, I think, in the marketing world right now. That basically the idea is, hey, there's people on Instagram primarily, is where most people influencer-wise come from. There's YouTube as well and Twitter, but these people have massive followings, right? Let's say Laura has 100,000 Instagram followers. A brand might approach her and say, hey, Laura, you've kind of cultivated this niche audience of event professionals who maybe are even in DC or something like that. It's like, I want to target those people because my product is perfect for them. Laura, I'll pay you $1,000 or whatever it is to post one Instagram picture of my product and say that you love it and endorse it. And you might say, like, yes, and there's a lot of really interesting things around the idea of influencer marketing that are coming out. Well, the whole idea behind Fyre Festival was they actually paid tons and tons of influencers to post about this festival. The iconic thing was this orange square that they were supposed to post, I believe. And the idea was they were supposed to bring all these influencers, make it very high-end, and these influencers would come to the event, and they obviously were not given what they were promised. This amazing experience ended up being quite crappy. And so naturally, they all got on their Instagrams, their Twitters, and blew it up. And I think that's one reason why this event became so high profile so quickly is, if this had happened, in a random normal event, we might not ever hear about it. Maybe we hear about it because a friend went to it or something like that. But because they were attracting influencers, they just blew it back up all across social media. And I think what it's brought up is, obviously we can talk about, they didn't do the right things. They didn't, have the budgeting done. There's a really, really great article, as I completely forget where it went, that's I worked the Fyre Festival, and it was always going to be in a disaster. And it was in New York Magazine. Highly recommend reading it. It was probably one of the best articles I've read on the topic, because a lot of them are kind of coming from the outside for what they've seen, but this one was from someone who was actually in charge of planning all of the artist relations. And he talks a bit about how this event was just doomed to fail from the day he landed on the island. So I highly recommend reading that. But I think the topic that I want to kind of discuss is this idea of influencer marketing, right? Now we're starting to get better crackdowns as far as people having to say on their post saying, instead of just a normal endorsement, because we do it all the time, right? We take a picture of a cool coffee place or a cool restaurant. We say, look at this awesome place, but no one knows it. Like, they're not typically ads, but now we're seeing this blurred line between what's an ad and what's a true endorsement. So I think the crackdown from everyone's coming really hard, but this idea of, like, should we be using influencer marketing? Is there too much? All that sort of things. But I thought the topic of influencer marketing was something that we probably need to bring up in the show. So I'm going to kick it over to Brandt, because I think Brandt has some ideas around this, and since we haven't heard him talk yet.
We can try. Certainly. So yeah, I completely rebooted everything in my house, and I'm actually now strapped in through my phone. So it's definitely
the things we do for you.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it'll continue to stay connected. It seems to be working better than my very expensive business plan was working just a few minutes ago. So thanks everybody for coming. It's been a wonderful. The influencer thing is interesting, and it's something that I have to be careful with in my own business, just because as a consultant, when I say I like a product or something like that, people will see it as an endorsement. And the fact of the matter is that not every product is right for everybody. So yes, I may like this product or that product or something. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm getting paid on the back end or get a cut or anything like that. But the best solution for that in whatever industry you're in is to be 100% completely transparent about it, and be very, very clear about when you're getting money for something, or goods, or this basket was given to me, or this phone was given to me as a demo unit, or something along those lines. Anytime you're receiving goods or money, it's absolutely imperative that you're being honest with your audience about that.
I agree.
Yeah, and if you'll notice, I think one way that people are trying to at least crack down on, what is influencer marketing and, you know, what is truly genuine is that on Instagram, there's actually a hashtag. It's very teeny tiny because the word is only 2 letters long, but it'll say hashtag ad. And so that's how you know if Kylie Jenner is taking a picture of her her microphone. It says, "This is the best microphone I've ever used." Hashtag ad. Then you know that she's getting money on the back end. And I think the influencers that I personally prefer to work with, especially in my role, I mean, I'm in a marketing role, are the people where it is going to be genuine, and you know, it's somebody who does have influence and we can get it organically. Now, I think Fyre Festival, they went like completely off the rails where it was just like super big names, and then I think where they really fell short was the expectations. Yeah. And so I think that's something that if you plan on leveraging any influencer marketing, you know, you have to understand what you're going to get out of it. And it's sort of like with like paid ads, you know, a paid ad, if you put, you know, $200,000 towards something, you may get just like paid spammers essentially. So is that quality? Who knows? So you just really have to make sure that whichever influencer you're working with aligns with your brand and your work, and then, you know, don't have any like wishful thinking. You know, I would say try it out, but it's not a silver bullet, I don't think.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do an episode, I think, just purely on influencer marketing, because I think it's such a growing thing now, and there's so many facets to it that it's, you know, it's important, because a lot of times our influencer marketing is like our speakers and our content and things like that.
Right.
What does that look like? So, yeah, I agree that probably Fyre Festival went a little crazy on it. I think there was a article I read, and again, I read so many articles on it, so it's all blurring together, and is that like something like Kylie Jenner got paid like $250,000 for one post or something like that?
Yeah.
And she didn't lead with the word ad, so everyone thought it was like a legit endorsement. And so now there's, you know, very, very interesting around it. So the lessons be learned is be careful with influencer marketing and always hire an event professional.
Let's just do it and be legends.
Oh yeah, and that's what it says in the article. So if you hear this this quote now all across the internet for the event professionals, it says, quote, F it, let's do it and be legends, as one of the the head execs said when they said, you know, there's no way we're going to make this happen in time, and they said, F it, let's do it and be legends.
Let's just do it and be legends. Yeah, I kind of want a coffee cup with that on it.
Oops, right. I think I just froze.
No, you're good. You're good.
Good for a little bit, but you're back.
All right, Brandt. So I want to hear about your epic news. You always got a ton of news, and as the idea man behind the potpourri episode, we want to hear your epic news.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry I missed the opening there. I mean, these really are my favorite episodes, where we get to just kind of round table around and you know, just talk about what's in the news these days, and you know, kind of give our takes on it. So the thing that I'm bringing to the table is the article is actually from, you know, a little while ago, but it's something that's going to be affecting us for the next possibly decade, and that is that the U.S. travel industry is really looking at the policies of the current administration as being very damaging to the meeting and events and travel industries, and you know, potentially losing millions and millions and millions of dollars over the course of the next decade because of the policies. Now, again, we're going to try and stay away from politics and whether or not you think these policies are a good idea or a bad idea, they exist. And as a result of their existing, let's see here, it's a $250 billion industry, roughly $15 million U.S. employees. I'm looking at a Bloomberg article from a few weeks ago, and they're talking about, I'm trying to find the number here, everything got reset when my computer got reset, as to exactly how much they're talking about potentially losing over the course. Likely to reduce international arrivals by 4.3 million already this year, according to Market Strategy Tourism. Dow predicts U.S. arrivals won't decline as much as they did after the September 11th attacks, but they're going to be down. And as everybody that was in the industry knows, I mean, the time period right after 9/11 was a really hard time in the industry because nobody was traveling. and it kind of sent the industry into a funk for a while. So they're calling it potentially a lost decade, with the quote, I believe this is from the head of U.S. tourism, saying that we haven't seen the biggest damage yet, and that we're just getting right now is just kind of the beginning. It's kind of, he called it noise level. So they're really looking at this as a potential impact on the industry, and then we start looking at things that have happened over the course of the last couple of weeks, where they're doing other things from a security standpoint that are going to affect the industry, such as the laptop bans from certain Middle Eastern countries. They're now looking to expand that to the UK and Europe. So they're looking at potentially all travelers from Europe facing a ban on using laptops on long-haul flights. I mean, I can't even imagine being able. The last couple of times that I've flown to Europe, I've lived out of my laptop, trying to get work done. And so this is really, if you can't, as a business person, pull out your laptop and get work done on the long-haul flight, you're just going to not go.
Well, one of the interesting things I think that you bring up too is that a lot of people don't realize too with these bans, it's not necessarily you just can't use it on the flight, is that you have to check it, and that also prones a lot of people. Like, for example, me, I haven't checked a bag in a year and a half, know, and if I have to check a bag for my laptop, it also increases the chance that bag could get lost, stolen. And sometimes I'm, heading to an AV gig. If I don't have my laptop and my bag gets lost, sure, I doubt American Airlines is going to be able to figure out fast enough how to get me, a new laptop for the show that starts tomorrow, which really it prones even disasters, I think, beyond just the flight itself.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I rarely check a bag unless it's a direct flight, and I mean, I flew to Turkmenistan with carry-on, so I mean, it's definitely possible. And I needed, Anyway, we won't go into the details on that, but let's just, it can be done. But yeah, it raises a whole separate set of issues when you're traveling internationally. And just so we're clear, we're not talking. iPads are out too. It's anything larger than a smartphone, so you can't just say, well, I'll just do it on my iPad. I mean, it's literally anything larger than a smartphone is what they're looking at banning from basically all European flights. So if that goes into effect, it's only going to get worse from there. So again, whether or not you believe these policies are going to be effective measures against terrorism or necessary, we're not talking about that. These are what they're talking about doing, and the impact on the industry is going to be severe. That I don't think can be denied. So that's something that I'm kind of looking at over the course of the next few months.
Awesome. One other piece of news from going from a super serious tone of awesome news and interesting conversation is I have a lighter piece of news, which is related to hashtag icons, which I completely forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode because we were freaking out there for a second, is that hashtag event icons, for everyone that's watching right now, is on iTunes now by popular demand. A lot of you watch the show know that, hey, we host all the episodes on video with transcriptions and all the links on the helloendless.com blog. However, a lot of you have said, I love my podcasting software. I love that the episode just shows up. And Brandt was a huge proponent of making sure that we got this done. So now we are on the iTunes store, which means we're on every single platform basically for podcasting. So now you can also not only choose between video, as much as you might like looking me shake my booty at the beginning of every episode and see Laura shake her booty and Brandt shake his booty. You can also do the audio only version. So if your bandwidth is limited or you're just, hey, looking for something to listen to on the drive over, that's available as well. So a lot of really cool features. And the one thing that we're asking is for all of you guys who are watching this right now is if you can hop on the iTunes store and just give us a review. We're shooting to be in the new and noteworthy section, and that helps by helping us get 5-star reviews and giving us your honest opinion of the show. Not only helps us improve the show and helps us feel good about the hours and hours of hours that we spend planning this show every single week, but also it helps us get viewed by more people, and we can get more people in the conversation as we talked about and ask more awesome questions. So, and to help you out with that, and if that wasn't enough motivation for you, is definitely check out the reviews and leave a review. And if you do, you might be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card. So leave us a review on the audio version of the podcast. We'd appreciate, and you might get entered to win that. So super duper excited about that. important. Just hashtag Event Icons News. So, all right, I'm done. So you guys can go, we can go into more less self-promoting conversations.
Well, I was just gonna say. I mean, for me, it's all about the live. I love doing these shows live. I love, when we get in audience interaction as we go. That's the best. But we totally understand that's not how everybody listens, and gets to watch, and you can't always sit down in front of a computer. And I personally, need that podcast that just gets sent right straight to my phone so that when I hop on a plane, I don't have to worry about it. It's just there waiting for me. So I highly recommend subscribing, because that way you're going to make sure you're going to get every one of our episodes. And then, yeah, please be sure and leave us a review, not only for discoverability, but because we want to know how we're doing, and we want that feedback. We want you to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and so please, 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 please let us know.
Ditto.
All right. Awesome, Laura. Well, you kick it off with the next question that you have for us for today's episode.
Ooh, I am super excited about this one.
If you guys have questions for us, we'll take your questions too. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, looks like Karen is in the question pane here. Podcast Joy. So happy to have made tonight / evening's event. Missing you guys live. Hurrah. Thank you, Karen, for tuning in. This is great. If you have any questions, let us know. And then also shout out to Joan, who is tuning in. Joan, thanks so much for watching. And Martin.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And
all right. Okay. So next question. And I guess let's start with Brandt this time. Who is somebody in the events world right now who is just crushing it? Yeah, just crushing it. Tell us who they are, what's the accomplishment, or what have they been doing, or what was new and noteworthy?
What was new and noteworthy, Brandt?
Well, I mean, the beautiful thing is that we've been having these folks on the show, right? And so what's always amazing to me are the people that are able to rise above the noise, right? I mean, Twitter has become a very loud place. Facebook's still a very loud place. I've seen effective, people that are very effective at getting above the noise, and then I've seen people that, just kind of fall away and disappear. And they're still posting when you go click on them, but I mean, and I'm one of them. I mean, I haven't had a lot of time to post on things as much as possible. So people that cut through the noise. So people like Event Manager Blog, Julius over there.
Can we talk about Julius for a second? Because I was going to
absolutely.
He's crushing it on the content side of things. If you haven't,
I can't keep up. I can't keep up. It's too good.
Videos every day, 3 blogs a day. It's amazing. Insane content. Can't keep up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Which is it's fantastic. I mean, I've needled him a bit. I was like, man, you got to stop. I've been like away for 3 days. I can't catch up. But it's good. I mean, yeah, absolutely crushing it, absolutely killing it. I mean, people like Nick, Nick Borelli, he rises above the noise. I mean, it's kind of his job, and so it's he's able to rise above the noise, and so I have a lot of respect for people that can do that, and I mean, those are just 2 off the top of my head. As far as people that are able to do that, and even my friend Adrian, who we're planning on possibly having on the show at a later date, Adrian Seeger, teaser. He's always been very good at posting very regularly, and is an enormous resource for interactivity and crowd being able to get the wisdom of the crowd out of the crowd. So I'm looking forward to having him on the show. So I mean, those are 3 folks off the top of my head that I think are really doing a great job.
Awesome.
Nice.
Do you want me to? Oh God, dang it! I was gonna say, can you go next? I was gonna say Julius has been awesome. His whole team. I think just shout out to all the people. I mean, it would take me forever to name all the people involved in this team that I got a chance to talk to, but there's a lot of amazing people behind Event Manager Blog as well. Julius is absolutely amazing, but definitely it takes a village to put that blog together. So shout out to every single person. You know who you are.
Absolutely.
That puts it together. So I think those people are doing a fantastic job being able to clearly create some great content that you want to read. The next person I was going to give a big shout out to is Steven from Showflow, who, again, teaser, we're going to have on the show really, really soon. They just launched their official blog, the production channel, and as an AV production person, it's just an absolutely fantastic resource. We're going to be doing some work with them, having him on the show, but their content is absolutely awesome. It might be a little too far technical for most people because it's definitely designed for people like me and Brandt who live in the production industry. But big shout out to them because their product Showflow is just phenomenal. I recommend it to all my clients. I sometimes require my clients to have it in some cases. And they're doing such a great job on content, as well as the expansion of the software, and as well as they also start up their own podcast as well, where they interview show callers, technical directors. And
Cool.
It's kind of cool if you're interested slightly in technical, or even if you aren't, to pop in there and be like, wow, like the stuff they're talking about, it's way different level. And you get to hear from like the best show callers. It's just a really, really interesting podcast from a technical perspective. So I think he's just doing an absolutely phenomenal job on the technical side that no one else is. He's just kind of like, starting to scratch the surface, I think, now.
Sweet.
Laura.
Yes. So I am super excited I am excited about, I think I've said that before. I've answered every question here, but so the person that I think is totally crushing it in the events world is Carol Krugman. So we actually had the pleasure of hosting her here at the office yesterday for Lunch and Learn. But if you don't know Carol, so she is the chair of the Department of Hospitality, Tourism, and Events department at Metropolitan State University of Denver. And she has about 36 years of experience in the industry, and she is accepting, I think the event is today, but PCMA is hosting a gala, and it's the Visionary Awards, and they're only giving away 3, and she is one of 3 honorees for today. And she's been a believer, full disclosure, of the Social Tables brand and company, and she's just been a really, really awesome resource for learning about the industry. And then also just like on a personal note, she is hilarious and just really weaves these really great stories about what it was like to be a meeting planner, in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So if you ever get to meet her, see her at an event, she's out and about. Definitely chat her up and ask her what it was like to be in the industry, because first, it's funny because she always describes herself as, and this is her words, not mine, an old fart, but she is so technologically savvy and she wants the industry to get on the wagon with technology. So I think she's just an incredible person. And she may not be out there tweeting or anything like that, but if you see her IRL, just go up to her, meet her. She's very, very friendly, and she will regale you with stories of the industry. So she's awesome. Carol Krugman.
Amazing. I always love meeting people who you didn't aren't necessarily prominent on Twitter and social media, but they're secretly crushing it on their own. They're kind of just doing their hustle and just doing it, and not really there for the attention and the fame, or maybe haven't received that, and you feel like you found this jewel of a person that no one else has met, and then you're just I get so excited about meeting those kind of people.
Yeah, she was telling us about. She was like, oh, okay, guys, because we were asking her, we're like, oh, what was it like being a planner, in the 60s and 70s? And she just said, okay, everybody has their laptop, their cell phone. So imagine doing your same job today without having a cell phone or laptop. And it's just I can't, you were just talking about losing your laptop in a plane. What if you didn't have a laptop? And the only way you could conduct business was over the phone or via snail mail, and she was like, that was our reality. So wow. It was really, really interesting, and she said that, one of the things that really makes this industry so great, and this is the last thing I'll point out about Carol, is that, it's really the people that drive the industry and make it, as fun and interesting as it is. And, once you lose that, it's you don't really have anything after that. But anyway, super interesting. Please Google her. She's very cool. She's great.
We'll have her linked into the resource section below for the recap, totally. For sure. Totally. I think I'm just trying to imagine right now. Do you imagine doing requests for quotes or requests for proposals via snail mail?
Yeah, she brought that up. Yeah.
your planning process would get exponentially longer, because now it's like they send out a request for proposal and they say we need a quote by the end of the week, and now it would be like if you said that, someone would be like, it's going to take me a week to mail it to you, you know, or whatever it is. I don't even know how snail mail works, but amazing. So shout sorry, like I sound like such an entitled millennial right now, but I think we're so lucky right now to be in the day that we are now. So I think just amazing what we can accomplish in the amount of time we have. So
yeah.
All right. So my next question for you guys is, what were some of the notable events that you've attended this year, that you've gone to, that you've enjoyed? And by year, do you want to say it's the calendar year, like, or we say like the past 12 months?
Yeah.
Let's do the last 12 months. So what were some of the notable events that you attended, and why? Let's start with why did you attend it versus like just the cool things. So we're going to be, I think, doing an episode. Man, we're doing so many good teasers. A teaser is, I think we're doing our favorite events episode coming up later this year. For those who don't know, we also have every single episode booked out for the rest of the year. That's how insane our schedule is. But we have an episode coming up with our favorite events. So as hosts, we'll all be getting together, picking our favorite events, talking about why are our favorites. But maybe go towards the attendee perspective of one of the favorite events that you attended and why you attended it. So, Brandt, want to kick it off?
Sure. So, as far as most recent events, I mean, one of the most recent ones was Eventex in Dublin. That was this year, and that was my second Eventex, and I'm a big fan of that conference. Because they keep experimenting with the formats. I mean, they're willing to go out on limbs and try different things. And this year they did kind of an 80-20 model where everyone would go into master classes for the majority of the day. Well, we'd all kind of get together at the beginning of the day, have kind of an opening ceremony, then break off to master classes, then come back and share kind of top 3 learning points from each of the sessions. And so there was much less of that kind of FOMO of, oh, I didn't go to that one versus that one. So you could really kind of narrow in on which one you wanted to go into, and then not feel like you were going to totally miss out on all of the rest of them. And then they did a group activity at the end where they would get everybody together and share their top things. So experimenting, really trying different things, with formats to see what works, what doesn't work. But what I like about it is it's a very pan-European conference in that, especially when it was in Bulgaria the year before, you got to meet people from, kind of the more the eastern side of Europe down into India, into Russia, whereas, we tend to, the people that we kind of usually meet around IMEX tend to be more kind of Western Europe and UK and that kind of stuff. And so, and even at IBTM World, it still had much more of kind of a Western European feel. So being able to, and I love that. I mean, I'm fascinated by how people do events all over the world, because you always learn something, and they're doing some amazing things. I learned stuff from the students in my class. I mean, they're doing amazing things with virtual reality in Eastern Europe, where they're linking up to 1,000, 2,000 VR headsets, playing simultaneous playback, and so I'm doing my little demo of like future tech. They're like, yes, we're already doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, great. The stuff they're doing with drones in Europe is way ahead of what we're doing here, because of the it took us so long to kind of figure out what the regulations were going to be. So they're using drones as decor with like dolphins floating and flying all over the place. It's crazy. And so I really enjoy those kind of international flavor events. So for me, I look back, IMEX America. I didn't get the chance to go to IBTM this last year, but so IMEX America, Connect is always a good one. So Collinson Media, but that's just gotten recently bought out. I'm blanking on who bought it out. But the Connect marketplace is. Yeah, they started to combine some, and so it's Connect Marketplace, and. They took I think they took their corporate and their athletic, and I think there was a third one, and they all put them together kind of at the same time. They would go off to different breakout areas, but then kind of shared the main sections. And so I've gone to that one a few years now in a row, and I'm a very big fan of that one. So that's kind of the top 3 of the most recent ones that I've been to. I did actually get the chance to speak at kind of an unusual one where the MPI chapter in Wisconsin was invited by Iowa, Dubuque, Iowa specifically, to come down and have their monthly chapter meeting in Dubuque, and then MPI Wisconsin hired me to come in and be their like monthly speaker. So I was speaking for MPI Wisconsin in Dubuque, Iowa.
Awesome.
So it was kind of a roundabout one. So that was a fun one too. Actually, Dubuque's actually a really pretty city that's gone under quite a bit of a renaissance. It's a nice river town. So there's your plug for Dubuque.
Dubuque.
This is not hashtag ad sponsored.
No. I was paid by MPI, so but not by the city of Dubuque.
I love it.
Not paid ad.
Laura, you want to get yours next?
Yeah, so I would say there's three. I'm going to go in threes also. So three events. First and foremost is Cater Source. Shout out to my girl, Catherine Frankson. She is their marketing manager over there. That show is also undergoing kind of like a couple of changes, so I'm really excited to see how that turns out next year. But this year, I mean, it's such a, we usually have an exhibit booth and we, you know, attend education and we usually speak, but it's just, you know, working with caterers, they're just such fun, amazing, wonderful people. And so we just always have a really good time at that show. It was in New Orleans. That was my first time in New Orleans, so really got to see some awesome, to eat some really great food, see music. I mean, like live music, just free every night of the week. We were there like on a Tuesday, and we walked in this one place, and the band was just incredible, and I couldn't believe that was free. So anyways, but yeah, Cater Source, it was like the entire package, awesome education sessions, attendees who were there, great people to meet, overall great experience. The second is Social Media Marketing World, which is usually in San Diego, I think every year, but this is my first time. I mean, it is one of the, it's always in San Diego? Okay, cool. Yeah, so they had to move it from the San Diego Grand Hyatt to the convention center right down the street because it's just exploded. And so there's, I think, at minimum, it's got to be 3,000 people, just to coordinate all of the education sessions and to have, you know, all the sessions were being recorded and all of those moving parts. And really, there was, to me, I didn't see that there was any like disaster, any like Mayday situation. I mean, it just seemed seamless from an attendee perspective. And I'm sure it was actually one of the very few people who was attending it as a social media, you know, practitioner, but also somebody who's working in the events industry. So not to say I was like judging the event, but it was just so, I mean, it was seamless. It was fantastic. There was, you know, the temperature in every room was perfect. There was water in every room. There were, you know, human arrows. There was entertainment. There was light music in the background. It was just, it was amazing. So hats off to Phil Mershon and your work on Social Media Marketing World. Yeah, he's the man. I mean, to coordinate, you know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people, I mean, it's just.
And another teaser, we're probably going to have Phil on the show really soon, so you'll be able to hear directly how does Phil make all of those amazing details happen.
Yeah, and the opening party was on a battleship, so, I mean, come on, that was great. And then lastly, I'll just breeze through this one. There's an event here in DC, it's called Savor. It's a sort of like a high-end beer festival. Tickets can be, you know, close to $200 plus. And then also, I work at a brewery just for fun, and so I got to go this past year, and it was incredible, just really great food pairings, beer, same thing, it was seamless, just, you know, there was no shortage of anything, it was great. It was great, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, Will, what about you?
So I'm going to share my favorite event that I don't ever stop talking. I think I mentioned every time someone says, like, what's your favorite event? So Inbound in Boston, these guys knew it was coming. Had a huge blast. I'm a huge inbound marketer as well. I just think it's a really cool, unique event. Similar to Social Media Marketing World, they take this kind of like, you know, educational spin, but also it's so much fun. It feels like a party the whole time you're there. So I'm sure I've talked about it enough, and it's just an amazing event. And it's actually one of the few events that I pay to go to, which is as an event professional, or as we say, like production guys too. The same thing about like going to concerts and things like that now is that like there's very rare cases where we ever have to pay to get into something because we always know someone, right? So to pay for an event means a lot. So that's one of the few events that I pay to go to. The second event, and I'm going to take completely similar to Brandt and talk a little bit about a really small event that I don't think anyone here that tunes in the show actually went to, is our local ILEA chapter. Again, shout out to ILEA. Whoop, whoop. I'm the president of the Arizona chapter. Believe it or not, I don't tell anybody this. No one knows this very much, so it's kind of the hidden incognito mode. But we've been working really hard. Our chapter is really small compared to most, but we've kind of owned that and loved having a smaller chapter, so we focused on intimate conversations. And so we had a really interesting lunch and learn kind of event where we brought together, one person from every like the AV guy, the photographer, the caterer, the rental company, the draping company, the venue, all these different people, the DMC, and we put us all together at a table and basically said, how can we work better together? What grinds each other's gears about working together, and how can we improve that? And, talking about things like, for example, the caterer being able to communicate better with the photographer, or, for example, the DMC working better with an AV company and wanting to hear about problems sooner because that's their job. Like, all these things that you don't really talk about a lot of times when you're on site for shows because you're just more focused on just getting things done. It was a cool kind of macro conversation that we had. So I would highly recommend. Feeling now there's a ton of people watching this that are going to love this idea, but it was basically the idea of how to work better in the sandbox together, which we had a blast doing. It was hugely receptive. We had a huge audience, and everyone was just like amazed. And it was great because we built some great relationships beyond just the, hi, my name is this, and here's my business card and what I do. So, yeah, that was my two favorite events. Sorry I didn't have a third one for you guys. So, all right. We have about 10 minutes left. Do we want to do the what event we wish we could go to and then maybe jump into resources?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's do it.
So what event do you wish you could go to? Let's make this one a rapid event, like one sentence why you want to go to this event. So.
Let's see.
We're speechless.
I'll say NAB. So National Association of Broadcasters. There's a couple that I'd like to go to. That's one because there's actually so much work being done on basically input and output. So it's all your microphones, it's storage, it's getting stuff off of storage quickly. So it winds up making its way into playback and things like that in production. So it's definitely not stuff that's just going to apply to radio stations. It's stuff that's going to work its way into production. And then the second half of that would be CES. I just love cool tech, so I would love to go to CES and just see all the toys.
I'm going to piggyback off of Brandt and say, definitely CES would be amazing. I don't know an event that I, a specific name to this, but or if this already exists, but, some sort of event where you can see more applications of, VR and what's being done, because I've been very much, on the outside of doing it other than, developing some things here and there, but, an event where everyone got together, because right now I think it's so disjointed between Facebook having its launches, HTC Vibe having their launches, everything's kind of separated right now, but if everyone could get together so you could have one place where you could walk the halls and see all the latest, coolest technologies in mixed reality, I guess you'd say, that would be an event that I would want to go to.
Sweet. So let's see, an event that I would love to go to, but unfortunately has already happened, is South by Southwest. I still have never been. I want to go for the technology. I want to go for the music. I want to go for the film and education. So all of those things together. It just seems like a real awesome event.
I love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So my favorite question of all time. What are your cool favorite resources? I figure we skip tips since you hear enough tips during the episode. So what are your favorite cool resources right now that you want to share with everyone?
I will say one website that I've been reading a ton of is Skift. So huge for information about travel, kind of like what Brandt was talking about, and its impact on meetings and events. Shout out to Sean O'Neill, who's a writer over there, doing some great work. Also, this is another kind of related outlet. Smart Meetings is great if you don't read them. Also, definitely on the cutting edge of, new technologies are coming out that are affecting meetings and events, and it could be a small meeting, big meeting, events, conventions, all of the above. Great outlet there. And then two that are sort of like not really related to events, but it could be. Duolingo is a language app. So for those of you that maybe travel to do events, and it's one of those things where even if you're traveling to do an event, so like say you're doing an event in Sweden, okay, they all speak English there, but they're really going to appreciate you knowing some basics, and I just think it's good to learn that stuff. It's a free app. They've actually added bots to really, bring it conversationally into the mix. So great free app. And then secondly, if you haven't tested it out, Snapchat has almost like an AR kind of feature to it. So you can actually drop images and things, like if I take a picture of the ground, you can drop in a sticker and it looks 3D and you can kind of walk around it. So really cool new feature that maybe you could test at an event.
Awesome. I'll go next. So cool resources. I am a big traveler. If you don't know who I am and don't follow me on Instagram, I travel probably more than most people. Obviously, I'm lucky that big part of our reason I travel is because we have clients all over the country, and then I'm lucky enough that I start to do a lot of international traveling as well. Last year I did a big 2-month trip around Europe while working. Obviously, I'm a big remote worker, and I had a big Osprey backpack, and a big shout out to Osprey backpacks. They're very awesome, but I wanted something smaller, and I'm really trying this whole idea of one bag travel, about having one really small bag that you fit everything you need. So I was trying to find one bag to last me for everything I need for a month. If you ever want to talk about how you live in a backpack for a month, I'm happy to. But I found this great bag called the Tortuga backpack, Outbreaker backpack, and it's basically like a suitcase on your backpack back, but it also looks cool and has a lot of little pockets for technology, great design for your laptop, great suspension system, and I just used it in my trip to New York, a week in New York, and it was awesome because you get out of the Uber and literally you just put your backpack on, you walk right on in. Like when we had to run from subway to subway, I just easily did it with a backpack. So really cool. So that's a big shout out for that one. Books for people. I recently started reading Sapiens, which is a fantastic book about the history of mankind and humankind basically. It's written very much like a biography of humans, and then also starts to make some speculations into the future of what humanity looks like. Really cool book. Another really good book is Deep Work, which I haven't read yet, but I've been hearing it every single day for the last week. So everyone's recommending it. Check out Deep Work, this idea of being very laser focused, not having a lot of distractions. I think it's very timely now that we're in an age of Slack notifications and everything like that. So Deep Work. And speaking of Slack, Slack just announced today a new feature, which I thought would be cool to share with everyone, called AI Search. So now when you search in Slack, if you say, for example, you search something like hiring process, it will show you the people who talk about that topic the most. So it's almost allowing Slack to become like a knowledge base based on everything that you talk about. So you'll be able to see the channels that get talked about the most when it comes to those topics, the people that talk about it the most. There's a couple other amazing features. I haven't even gotten a chance. I just read the article right before we hopped on today, but I'll post it on the link below. But really awesome that Slack is just continuing to innovate on this idea of group conversations and not just be a chat platform, but be more so like a tool that everyone can use around the office. So virtual office, I guess you'd say. So those are all my resources. Brandt?
On the language front, I would put in a plug for an app called Memrise. That I found it. I tried Duolingo for a while and I liked it. I actually even got a goodly ways into one of the Rosetta Stones, but it was still very CD based at that point, and they were just at that time starting to flirt with tablet technology and stuff. But Memrise, what I like about it is definitely more conversational. So rather than like starting you out with words like apple and baby, and because like I said, I like Duolingo, but some of the phrases that I was getting was like, the duck eats the bread. It's like I'm just never gonna use that. So whereas
you never know when you're
Memrise
sitting by a lake,
started,
and so all of a sudden you have to say the duck eats the bread.
You never know. It could well come in handy, but it definitely started out more like hi, and hello, and then they would show native language speakers that clearly they were just going around and recording like almost on a camera phone. I don't know if people were sending them in, and they would be like hola, and just saying it naturally. So that was kind of fun, and it's one of the only ones that I can find that actually does have Chinese. I don't think Duolingo has Chinese, and I was kind of flirting with trying some of that, and I've just been busy the last couple of months, and I probably would like to go back to it because it's fascinating to me, and I enjoy kind of that 5 minutes a day of just zenning out a little bit and learning a little bit of a language. So I'll probably get back to it here once I get through the election and stuff. I know what's really frustrating to me is that I had one after the last time I was on when you guys interviewed me, and I totally forgot what it was, and then I remembered it after the show, and now I've forgotten it again. So I'm gonna go with a couple of things. I know because I didn't write it down. So I'm gonna go with a couple of different things. One is Google Home. I'm a big fan of Google Home. I can't remember if I've recommended that here on the show or not, but I'm still enjoying it if I have already recommended it. We're up to 3 now, and so
awesome.
They do tend to multiply. But what I love about them is actually the music playing capabilities. They're like poor man's Sonos. So you can connect them together and you can play. You can play your music across your house, and so you can connect the one in the living room and the kitchen. So even listening to podcasts and news and stuff like that, you can just kind of wander around the house, and it keeps going. And then
I gotta give a huge shout out to the Google Home on that. I am a Alexa fan. I can't say her name because she's gonna get activated in my house now. I said the A name. She does not allow. I have like 4 of them in my little 500 square foot apartment, and literally that's the only feature that I've been waiting for, is this idea of like hit Spotify, send to all speakers, and they all sync and be poor man Sonos essentially. I'm really sad that Amazon has not caught up to that, because that is one feature that almost might pull me away.
Yeah, and they really nailed it out of the box. It works perfectly. And then just to round it out and kind of bring us back, I would like to recommend, I don't think I've recommended on this show, but my favorite podcast application is Pocket Casts. So Pocket Casts, it's cross-platform. It's on iOS, it's on Android, and you can actually access it through your browser as well, and they all sync together. I think you do have to pay separately for the Android app and the iOS app.
It's like $1.
For me, yeah, it's totally worth it. It's frequently updated. It's one of the prettiest podcast apps. It ties into the iTunes database, so you're able to get anything that's being published on iTunes. Say, for example, event icons, now available on the iTunes store. I actually, literally, the day that you said that we were live, I was able to add it to my list of podcasts. So it's very easy to use. Highly recommend. And what I like about it is it has variable speed. So you can actually, I listen to a lot of my podcasts at 1.5, sometimes 2x, because we are perfectly capable of doing that, especially when you're in a closed environment like an airplane where you've got the headphones in and you're able to just kind of zen out. So and then Will is demonstrating on his camera how easy it is to use. So you have to have the file totally downloaded. You can't stream it at speed, but podcast downloads are pretty fast, unless you're on GoGo Wi-Fi, in which case they don't download very much at all.
I don't think downloads fast. I had a fast GoGo Wi-Fi over the weekend. I had a really fast GoGo Wi-Fi experience.
Second
this
gen
last week.
is pretty good, actually. Yeah, the second generation of it. I was on a flight relatively recently where they made a big deal about the fact that it's second gen. They also charged you a lot more, so they figured that out. So Pocket Casts. I think it's Shifty Jelly, I believe, is the app provider. And it's a good local, not local, but it's a good independent app developer. That's pretty much the only app that they work on, as far as I know. Updated regularly and fantastic. So Pocket Casts.
Amazing. All right, Brandt. So we didn't get a chance to have you introduce the show. So I think you get to close it then. Because we are definitely out of time.
We are definitely out of time. We want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you guys. I mean, I love these types of roundtable episodes, so I'm happy to do it. But we want to know what you guys think out there, so please, please, please leave us a review on iTunes. We are doing a contest, like Will said, for people that leave reviews, so you never know. You might just win a little something, something for leaving a review. And just for leaving a review. It doesn't have to be a 5-star review, but of course we would really appreciate it. Now, if you don't want to leave a 5-star review, we'd prefer that you let us know why. Rather than just going, this show sucks. Please do let us know why you think so. And because we do want to make this show as much fun as it is to do this together, we want to make this show interesting for you as well. So please let us know, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon on the next episode of Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #Event Icons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the Twitter conversation sponsored by Alex Plaxton and Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #Event Icons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #Event Icons.